Interactional linguistics. Now, what are interactional linguistics? Interactional linguistics is a study of language exchange that takes place between two or more speakers. Now, if we are interested in bilingualism or multilingualism, then we need to study these interactions or exchanges to understand the processes that allow or that constrain the linguistic choices of those involved. Now, if we want to study issues of, for instance, language shift or language maintenance, these are macro issues, then even we need to begin with an understanding of individual linguistic choices and the social constraints that are operative on that. So, by studying those in depth and how an individual makes a choice between using either a dialect or a standard or using language R or language A, then it allows us to sort of look up and see the wider patterns of linguistic behavior that are operative in the society. Now, Goffman calls this impression management. So, what does impression management mean? Impression management means that when individuals choose a specific language code, they are trying to negotiate a specific aspect of their personality, or they are trying to negotiate a specific identity, and to do that, they are trying to create a certain kind of impression on the person that they are speaking to. So, in this impression management, the choice of linguistic codes plays a very important role. And this would mean that even if we are only interested in studying the dynamics of bilingualism or multilingualism or any language, we cannot do that unless and until we take into account the society within which that language is embedded. So we need a single framework to take into account together language and society as an integrated whole or as integrated streams to understand the dynamics. Bernstein pointed out that verbal communication is a process, and it is a process within which individuals or the actors, as he calls them, make certain specific linguistic choices. But when they make these choices, the range of those choices are limited, because they are well aware of the consequences that might follow if certain kinds of language norms or the speech norms are not followed. For instance, if you have a problem in your, for instance, university or college, it is less likely that you would go up to this authority, a higher up authority, and speak in a regional dialect or a regional language. It is more likely that you would use the official language to talk about it, and this is exactly what Bernstein means over here. So what we are saying is that the rules of codification, that is, the rules that apply to code, that is, put what you want to say within a language, to code in a language, is actually a performance of your personal relationships or deep structure, social structure that is embedded in there. So the hierarchy, the social hierarchy is reflected in your linguistic choices. And it is so much there, it is so important, and that you can almost always call them parallel to rules of grammar. It's just like we observe the rules of grammar when we are saying this, we are also applying the rules of codification, like which language to use, what appropriate vocabulary to use, when we are speaking to whom. You take into account all those things, the setting, the situation, the event, the person, but we hardly actually realize that. Himes calls that this kind of information actually forms a very important part of communicative competence. So when we talk about communicative competence, we just don't talk about how proficient a person is or how fluent a person is in using a language. It is also about the appropriacy of language, of code switching, of using of dialect or language that you need to be communicatively competent within a speech community. So we are saying that the socio-linguistic constraints on the selection of these variables are very important.